So for the next moment, I'd like you to think about exactly what it is you feel right now in this moment. So think about the way your body feels in the chair. Think about the way your foot feels in your shoe. Think about what your back is doing. Is it holding you up? What about inside? Is there any tension going on? Does it go up and down? Does your tension increase after you have a certain thought? Or do you have tons of thoughts running through your mind right now? Or maybe one thought that you just cannot get off your mind? Or perhaps you're fully engaged and with me right now in this moment. So you would be pretty good at describing exactly what you feel in this moment pretty accurately. But if I was going to ask you to do the same exact thing for 24 hours ago, to describe on all of these dimensions exactly what you felt Monday at 4 p.m., it would be nearly impossible to do. So this is a problem. And we really have been relying on retrospective self-report for a long time now. In fact, we've been doing it for decades. And this is a problem for us because if you've ever been in therapy, we'll ask you, how was the last week? Or in a research study, we'll say, how was the last month or 2 months, 4 months, and sometimes even a year? And this is not good because people don't have the best memory, and that means they don't have the best self-report. And poor self-report means bad medical decision-making, poor clinical errors, and slower treatment gains. So it's not perfect. So I'm going to take a second and tell a little story. So I've been in the clinical psychology doctorate program for a couple years now, and I've been a therapist, and I've had a bunch of friends come up to me and they say, Stacy, come on, tell me the truth. Isn't it the case that when you're in therapy, all you really have to do is sit there and just say, so how does that make you feel? And it's kind of true. I realized, actually, quite a bit of what I'm doing is asking people how they're feeling right in that moment. It's very imperative that I know what you're feeling and that you're able to accurately express what you're feeling so that I can know how it fits into this working model I have of the interrelations of your thoughts and emotions and behaviors. It's our first step to being able to intervene upon this process in therapy. So researchers have tried to solve the solution by using ecological momentary assessment. And what that is a fancy word for just referring to taking surveys multiple times a day on your cell phone for a couple days, a couple months, whatever. And this idea of having people go home and fill out surveys on their own is nothing new. In fact, in the early 20th century, we had psychologists telling their patients to go home and fill out diaries of funny things that happened or good coping skills they used. We were always limited in the technology that we had to be able to do this, up until the 80s, when these researchers said, hey, okay, maybe we should use technology to be able to prompt people to take surveys anytime that we want them to. And so they did exactly that. They had people take these big beepers, they were loud, they would buzz them to take surveys multiple times throughout the day. And these people would have to lug around these big packages with surveys they would have to fill out right when they were prompted to do so. And it wasn't ideal, but it's really showing how we're able to use this experience sampling method, also known as ecological momentary assessment, to improve psychological assessment through technology. So now we're really fortunate to have cell phones to be able to map this out. People just have to download an app on their phone and it'll prompt them to take surveys multiple times a day. We're really interested in these fluctuations that can happen across days or weeks or even just within a day. And then we want to see how do other variables map onto that? What other things correlate with it? How do these relationships work for different types of people? And this is an example. So this is showing somebody taking 10 surveys, rating their positive affect. And in the middle there is somebody having physical activity. And this is showing that their positive affect was sustained in the hours after their activity. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, researchers have been using cell phones for EMA for probably the past decade, since the proliferation of cell phones. They look at these kinds of relationships and trajectories for lots of different types of people and problems and behaviors. And you don't even have to look at relationships. You could also be looking at predictors. So we might be able to predict things like suicidal ideation or binge eating. And this is a very helpful thing for the field of psychology. And okay, EMA, it's not perfect. I mean, it's still self-report. You're still asking people to take multiple surveys on their phone many times a day. They could just answer the same thing again and again if they wanted, but it's far surpassing what we've used in the last century to be able to assess for psychological symptoms. So back to that original question. How do you feel? I want you to think about how you feel and the relationship with other things in your life, because understanding ourselves is the first step to being our best selves. And if you find you have any trouble with it, well, there's probably an app for that.